Because the thing is, at the end of the day, like I see this place as a sort of like an intellectual gym.
Oh, exactly.
Honestly.
Intellectual gym, 100%.
Because you go physically, like for your mind, I feel like most of my friends, they don't really want to talk about this kind of stuff.
They've made up their mind, and then they're like, oh, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to like.
I don't want to bring it up. But because let's go to the assumptions of science.
Okay.
For example, you need rationality to do science. How do you prove rationality?
Well, we have to assume rationality, don't we?
So would you not seem that secular?
Well, not really, because then
you have to, in order for you to use rationality, you need to read rationality.
But the thing is, it may look circular because we're talking about science, but the fact is, I don't look at it like that. We have rationality.
But then how do you prove rationality? That's
how do we prove it? Yeah. Well, we can do some mathematical equations, or we can argue a debate, and I'll show you that we're rational creatures.
No, you're using your rationality to prove rationality.
Yeah. So what?
Secular.
So what?
That's a logical fallacy. In logic, that's a fallacy. You can't use secular logic. It's like saying, say I'm blue. Why am I blue? Because I'm blue.
But that's not what I'm saying.
You are. You're saying I'm using rationality to prove rationality.
Yeah, but what else do I have?
Because you need to.
What else do I have?
Hold on. No, that's what I'm saying. It's one of the assumptions of science.
Yeah, but what else do you have?
You don't. That's what I'm saying.
So this assumption of science is inescapable, yeah?
No, I'm saying.
Right. So what else do we have?
Okay. Let's lay a foundation. Then we can work on it.
We have rationality.
No. But we're using rationality to prove rationality.
So what other way is there?
Okay. So
give me another way.
Would you say that's secular?
No, I don't think that's secular. It may be circular to some level, on some way of.
I want to understand your way of thinking.
Yeah.
Like if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C.
Yeah. Okay, but this is not a mathematical equation.
No.
We're not developing a mathematical equation here. The way that we understand the world can be written in mathematical equations, but then they talk about the physical world.
Yeah.
Now, so far, the things about consciousness and rationality, these are not 100% defined as well as atoms and cells and forces.
What I'm trying to say is, right, before you go into atoms, before you go into forces, you need the scientific method.
Yeah.
Before you do the scientific method, you need the assumptions of science to do the method. Now I'm saying before we go to the method, let's deal with the assumptions.
Yeah.
Because we can't do the method without assumptions.
Yeah.
So one of the assumptions is rationality.
Yeah.
So how do you prove rationality? I'm using my rationality. It's secular.
But what else do we have?
Okay. Now, for example, the way you test something is something external to it, right? For it to be true or not. Isn't that what we do in science all the time? So in order for, say, let's do...
I don't think that's the only way of finding out whether something's true.
How else would you find out it's true?
Well, conducting experiments on things and within things.
Yeah, no. You're using something external. So for example, when you're watching a cell, right, you use the microscope to observe it, right? Use something external to it. So you can't observe the microscope from the microscope.
Yeah, but unless what you're studying is yourself, you will always be studying something external to yourself. And whatever you're trying to demonstrate, unless it's yourself existing, you'll always be done by something external to it.
I'm saying even if you look at yourself, you would need, say, MRI scan. You need X-ray.
Now, you're still going to be using your own brain to analyze yourself.
No.
That's inescapable. Using your rationality to demonstrate your rationality or your physicality is inescapable.
No.
We don't have any other way of doing it.
Okay. So if your foundation is right, because you believe rationality evolved. Is that what you believe? Okay. So I just want to understand your worldview. You understand that the universe was created randomly.
Why would you say created?
So you said came into being randomly. However time you like.
Necessarily, I think the universe exists.
Do you believe in the inflation model where it inflates, deflates?
No, the thing is, I don't believe in any one particular thing. I think there is a number of theories out there which try and explain the origin of the universe.
Which one do you incline towards?
None of them in particular.
So the way this universe came into being, you have no opinion of it.
Why do you assume that it came into being? Couldn't it have existed forever?
The only reason, I don't believe, I would like to believe it.
That it existed forever.
I'd like to believe it, but
so why don't you then?
The thing is,
you just choose.
No. So by redshift, we can see that you probably know this yourself. you can see that universes are expanding.
Yeah, but then
So if you go backwards in time, what happens? It gets smaller, right?
Yeah.
So it has a beginning.
yeah, well, one thing is that
How do you
the
get
evidence of redshift is not 100% conclusive. There are other explanations. Redshift could be explained by tired light. Yeah, it can also be.
tired light?
Yeah, it's an explanation for why it looks like.
So you incline to the explanation?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying to you that none of them are 100% confirmed.
Okay, would you go on a probabilistic time thing? So
How can you?
everything
Wait,
probability.
do you know what probability is?
Yes.
Yeah, probability is
How likely something is.
Yeah, how likely something is. You can only make that if you know the sum of all possibilities.
Yes, I agree.
Yes. Do we know the sum of all possible universes?
No.
So how can we say how probable anyone is?
We can assume probability
No, we can't.
within the limited space that we have.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
so-
like for example, if you're driving a car and you push the gas, you are very likely
And
that you
in
know
the
it's
space
gonna
that we
move.
can observe, we have one universe, which means that the likelihood of a universe is 1 in 1. The probability is 1 in 1.
Of what?
That when one universe occurred, the probability of it occurring is 1 out of 1.
So it's 100% basically.
Because it did occur. Yeah.
It's 100%.
That's all we know.
Okay,
Because
okay.
we only have access to this
No,
universe.
no. Okay. Would you?
We don't have access to other universes where life didn't occur or different things happened. We only have access to this universe, and life did occur.
No, I completely understand that. So would you now not say that because you have this universe, you can deduce some logical things from it?
Like what?
Like you need oxygen to breathe. Yeah, I don't need another
You
universe
don't
to
really
know.
need to deduce that. You can induce that as well. You can experiment and work that out.
Okay. Like I don't need another universe to know that they don't have oxygen. So
No, yes you do. Yes you do. Because how do you know that in a different universe creatures could live without oxygen?
Yeah, but
creatures could
we're
live
not- we're
in a
not them-
totally different way that you can't even imagine.
we're not them creatures though.
Yeah, but then you don't know nothing about them, and you can't assume that they need oxygen.
So the thing is, let's talk about things we do know and things that we have no
But
idea
then why are
about.
you talking about the creatures in a different
No,
universe?
because you talked about another universe. So
And
we
I'm
only
saying
know
that we can't know nothing about it, so the probability means 1 in 1.
that there is this universe. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's it.
Okay. Now, can you deduce that the universe had a beginning? Okay. You do understand that the galaxies are
Expanding.
expanding.
And getting faster.
Faster away. So in physics it's called dark matter or dark energy. The reason they call it dark is because they don't know what it is and they can't see it. Okay. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
They can't really explain it. Like they haven't got they don't have a model. So if things
No,
are
the thing
expanding.
is, they know it exists because of its effect
Yeah.
on galaxies. There must be something there which has a gravitational effect that's so powerful that directs the movement of galaxies and the expansion of the universe. So by that logical deduction, there is something there, and we call it dark matter because we can't see it. There's no light for us to look.
So you agree that's expanding?
The universe is expanding.
So
It does look like
so-
that. No, what I would say is it does look like that. Yes.
It looks like that.
Yeah.
So if we go backwards in time, would it look like it's contracting?
Came from a central point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would look
Up
like
to the
that.
point where we get to a central point.
So-
because that poses a whole host of problems which we haven't overcome yet.
What's the problem that you
Well,
have?
infinite matter, infinite energy. If all of the universe and its energy is expanding, and it could well go on for infinite, we don't know if it does or doesn't, or could or couldn't. Now, if you were to retract that backwards to a central point where there is no space, how do you get all this energy and matter into an infinitely small space?
Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
So we don't know whether the expansion of the universe actually translates into there being a genuine start from nothing. We can't infer that.
Okay. Can we not deduce that there had to be a force external to the
No, we
universe?
can't deduce that. No,
Why?
we can't. Well, you're the one saying you can deduce it. Tell me how.
No, because
I don't think we can deduce it.
no, I'm asking a question. You're making a negative affirmation.
Yeah, and then negative affirmations can never be proven. I'm just saying that I don't think so.
No, you can say I don't know.
I'm saying I don't think so.
No, okay, you say I don't think so. Well, what's your reasons for not
No.
thinking so?
Bro, why are you focusing on me?
No,
you
because I just want to understand how you think.
Look, you haven't even given me anything to criticize. You've just said I can logically deduce that the universe had a beginning because of the expansion, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So you have to tell me why do you think that? Because
Okay.
even the greatest scientists in the world don't think that, and they know a lot more about this than me or you.
To be honest, it's personal belief. It could be debunked. It's subjective.
But this is the thing. Why are you mixing your personal beliefs that come from your upbringing with the deep scientific problems that experts are dealing with
No.
and refuse to commit themselves to? Yet you are confident enough on the basis of your upbringing to commit yourself.
No, I'm not confident. I'm saying let's look at the possibilities. Let's look at which one's more likely. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'm saying to you that
Does that
that's
make
what
sense?
I do. That's what I do.
So to you, it makes so it doesn't make sense to come from a singularity. So what makes more sense to you?
What makes more sense to me is that maybe something existed forever.
Something exists forever. So you can say, let's just choose the universe.
What else is there?
Okay, but we know how it didn't exist forever.
How do you know it doesn't exist forever?
Because the majority of scientists say it started from...
No, they don't.
What would they say?
They say that the universe is expanding, therefore it looks like it came from a central point, but because you can't have an infinite amount of energy in an infinitely small amount of space, that doesn't really make sense either. So what it could be is that there's there's hundreds of different theories that are
So why do you reject the idea of, like even Stephen Hawking, he believes in a mother universe, right?
Yes.
So this universe always existed.
What he says is that that's one possibility. That there's a quantum foam of billions of universes.
And then there's this mother universe.
And or a mother universe, which gives birth to other smaller universes that explode inside it. These are two different possibilities, and there's many more. Now, none of them have been conclusively proven to be correct or beyond doubt.
So why?
Not even a single one of them has made it that far ahead of the others.
Why do you choose to disbelieve in an external force onto the universe, starting the universe, and that existed forever?
Why should I be?
Okay. No, I'm saying logically, does that not make sense? Something that exists forever created the universe, or
no. Why do you use words like created? When we're talking about the universe, why would you say the universe created the universe? That doesn't make sense. You are obsessed with creation and absolutism. I will tell you in my words how I see it. If the universe existed forever, which I don't know, but is a possibility.
Well, you're more inclined to that.
It's a possibility that I haven't been able to refute, and no one else has been able to refute. So if the universe has been around forever, then it doesn't need to be created. It doesn't need a beginning.
No.
It was there. Something was there forever. It has just transformed from one state to another.
No, I completely understand that. But from the evidence that we do see, it looks like it had a beginning.
It looks like that. But the evidence is extremely tentative.
So what evidence would you? What other evidence do we have?
Right, so you're saying that because we have some evidence of something, even the tiniest shadow of a glimmer of a piece of evidence, we should go 100% and commit ourselves because that's all we've got.
No. To be honest, when it comes to things, when we deduce things, right?
Bro, this is the problem with deduction, innit? You're gonna start your basis on the universe. You start your deductive logic on the principle that the universe definitely is expanding or the universe definitely had a beginning. Why are you committing yourself so absolutely to these tentative explanations?
Okay, give me a better one.
A better one is what I told you.
You don't know.
No, that the universe may have existed forever.
Okay, why do you believe that?
I don't believe that.
You don't believe it, but you're inclined to it. Bro, you say it.
Bro, you need to slow down, yeah? Because you keep jumping in, you don't let me explain my point. What I'm saying to you is that as a naturalist, I don't believe that there's any good reason to invent a magical dimension. There's no good reason to do that, yeah? If you want to do that, that's fine, but it doesn't help us in any way. Now, what I want to say to you is when you ask me, oh, the universe must have had a beginning because of expansion or whatever, and I say to you, yeah, it looks like that. Scientists say it looks like that. But that is not conclusive evidence. We are limited by our instruments and our understanding today. In 100 years or 1,000 years, we might have some much better evidence to prove to us that the universe did have a beginning, or didn't have a beginning, or did exist forever, or whatever. We don't know those things yet. But on the small amount of evidence, which is the expansion, which we can extrapolate backwards, it looks like the universe had a beginning, but that is a very tentative level of understanding. We don't know how much more there is to find out about that fact. We can't say it's absolutely true, and none of the scientists do.
Okay.
Especially with multiverse theories as well.
No, of course there's multiverse theories, but there's no really evidence for multiverse theories.
Methods for infinite multiverses and stuff like that. The universe is created and expanding and contracting.
No, because the thing is, what I see is that you don't like the fact that the universe had a beginning. You don't like that fact.
Because there's no good reason. It's not a fact. There's no good reason to think it's a fact.
You don't like the reasoning that the universe had a beginning, right? Is this like a personal thing?
It's not emotional.
I don't have anything to do with liking it or not liking it. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny. It's not a reliable fact that I would say is true. I would say it's a tentative evaluation of a set of data which has some explanatory power, but it's not ultimately or conclusively explanatory. It is tentative.
Okay, but you incline with the universe being always there.
But I think that is a better explanation and a better model at the moment than anything else, which still fits the data of the expansion.
How does that fit the data?
Well, but it doesn't contradict it. The universe could have expanded. Look, the universe could explode, and then when it gets to a certain size, it just dissipates, and more explosions happen. Or it could explode and then contract. I told you, there are hundreds of theories that have not been disproven. So any one of them could still be true. And there are thousands more that people will come up with in the next few years and 100 years.
You know, you can make up theories and there's no evidence.
You don't make up theories. Theories are based on some understanding or evidence or factual observation. It's just that they are not conclusive until that more and more evidence comes to back them up from different places, different fields. That's how they gain weight and momentum as a theory.
Okay, so right now you don't know, so you at all that how the universe came.
I can't say that I know for sure.
No, for sure. But you're willing to say that it didn't come this way.
No, I'm willing to say that I don't think.
He's willing to say he can be wrong.
Yeah.
Are you willing to say that you could be wrong in your case?
Of course.
So you could be wrong.
Because I can only go on based on evidence I see, and then I can only think that I'm rational. You see what I mean?
So you're saying Islam could be wrong?
I'm saying from what I see, right? From the logical deductions I've made, for me, Islam cannot be wrong. For me.
That's kind of opposite of what he's
You just said that Islam cannot be wrong. So no matter what evidence you find,
no. If you give me evidence to the contrary, then yes, it can be wrong.
But how can you justify yourself if it can't be wrong?
No, it can be wrong.
Then why did you say it can't be wrong?
I'm saying from the evidence
I think what you're trying to say is that so far, from all my observation and logic that I can use, it holds up, it stands up. Now,
So if you let's go from 0 to 100%, yeah? How certain are you that Islam is true?
Okay, what number would you like?
So like from 100, zero being you absolutely you have no confidence at all that Islam is true, to 100% where you're absolutely certain, without a shadow of a doubt, that Islam is true.
It's very likely that Islam is true.
What number would you give yourself?
I would give it in the 90% region. Right?
90% region.
90% region.
Thank you.
We have some wiggle room.
No.
You're getting there.
No, because everything works on probability, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Because something is more likely than something else. Like even if we go in the probability region, and you say that the universe created itself, it came into existence
or existed forever.
What is the chance of that mathematically?
We don't know because we only have one universe to analyze.
Okay. Evolution, the universe creating itself, planets.
It's 1 in 1. Evolution is 1 in 1. Life is 1 in 1. Consciousness is 1 in 1.
We're all human beings. We're all trying to find truth. We're all trying to find a way of finding truth. And he may use a scientific method. You may want to use a scientific method as well.
Of course,
But don't limit it to a book that was written 1400 years ago and say it cannot be wrong.
To be honest, what book are you relying on? A book written 50 years ago?
We're relying on observational evidence.
You're relying on Newton's, which was written 1,000 years ago.
That's been superseded by Einstein. You've got Planck, Roger Penrose.
But to be honest, I feel like it's a straw man argument saying a book 1400 years ago because your whole life, your whole teaching was on books. So I feel like you can't say a book written 1400 years ago.
The difference is,
it doesn't.
If he was to say that one particular book explained the whole universe better than anything else, then we would have problems. But the fact is,
no one's claiming that.
You are.
No, we're not claiming that.
If you're a Muslim, then you're saying that one book.
No. By the way, you guys probably have heard this. The Quran is not an explanation of science. If it was, volumes and volumes and volumes.
Yeah, I know
what I mean? It's science. And ayah means science. So you go in that direction and eventually you'll find out.
But it does say things that you can test. Like it may say Allah created a pen first. And he said like
you can't test that.
And
that's in metaphysics.
And he may say that he said he created the universe and the earth together and separated them.
So why should anyone take that book of science any more seriously than something like right now? Or the Bible? Or what my son wrote for his essay?
Or the Bhagavad Gita?
Okay.
Or why not when Plato says that there are the forms in the heavens, in order to gain any knowledge, let's say, of a table, I need to know that there is a table in heaven and understand the table in heaven before I know what a table on earth is, and that represents all tables. Why is that wrong? And then this particular book that you have seems to be correct. And by the way, the books of Plato have not changed. either.
It's
So
not religion. It's not religion.
why not?
But it doesn't mean that it's
Yeah,
not
hold
true
on.
religion.
I'm making it my religion.
Well, that's your
What he
personal
wants to know
belief.
is why would you choose your one over that one when there's no reason to think anyone is more likely to be true than the other.
By your statements, I can see that you haven't read the Quran. By the statements you're making. No, you're lying.
Oh, that's terrible.
You're lying.
That's
Honestly, you
terrible.
guys are
That's a
lying.
terrible assumption.
Honestly, no.
You realise it's offensive just to call a man a liar. You don't know
Have
him.
you spent 24 hours a day with me since the day I was born?
No, but the thing is right. Your
see, that's a very-
your body speaks a language.
Bruv, I don't
more
care.
than words.
You don't know what you're talking about.
No,
For you to
for you,
claim
no.
whether I've read something or not,
For example,
who's the liar?
If I say
who's the liar?
if I say electrons are positive and then I say I've read a science book, you know I'm lying.
No,
and
but-
then I can go back and say,
So you can read
this is what
something.
I mean.
You can read something and not understand it. You can read something and understand it differently. You can read something and have a totally different way of thinking about
Can
it.
I
than
ever think
someone
it's
else.
positive? Can I ever think an electron is positive from any science book? No. So the fact that you're saying,
So the Quran is that impeccable that there's no misinterpretation amongst the.
So why do people leave Islam?
there is nothing to school.
Have you heard of antimatter?
This thing about electrons, the reason is because it's so clear what the definition of electron is. Now your Quran is not that clear,
Okay.
and it's not that straightforward, is it?
Okay.
So why do people leave Islam? Why do prominent Muslims leave Islam?
Give me one prominent Muslim.
Well, I don't know his name, but there was a chap that used to come down here every week. He was a Muslim speaker, now he's left Islam.
No, yeah,
What
when
if I show you
when
his
you say
videos?
when you say
What if
prominent,
I show
right?
you his video saying he's left Islam and he used to come down here
What was his
every
name?
week?
What was his name?
I'll find you his name.
But the thing is, right, there's a lot of people who
Give me 2 minutes,
There's a
I
lot
will
of
show you
people
his name.
who lie and say I'm Muslim, and then a few weeks later they debunk it to make
No.
it look like it's a false religion.
No, this
But
one
that's
used to come down here every week. This one used to come down here every week.
and you don't know his name.
I'll find you his name. So
Well, it
what?
doesn't
I'm
matter,
meant
it
to
doesn't
know
matter.
everyone's name?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You shouldn't make claims
I'll
about
show you.
people when you don't know them.
No. But the thing is, right? If
It's
you
quite
say something,
disrespectful, really.
no. But the thing is, right? If I say electrons positive, everyone is gonna think I'm an idiot.
Bro, you could have read 100 books on electrons, and that's why you have that view about it, because you may have come up with a new theory. You've learned so much about it. You've developed a new theory which changes the definition. But that doesn't mean that I'm considered because you have a different view of what an electron is. I can't say he's never read a science book about it. I can't say that.
Have you heard the theory?
I'll
Have
make
you heard
that
the
claim.
scientific theory about antimatter?
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Polarity is reversed, so electrons
guy.
are positive.
This guy used to come down here every week.
I've never seen it.
Well, that's neither here nor there.
Show me.
used to come out.
Never used to come. Show me one video of him being here.
What's that got to do with it?
No, he didn't used to come every week.
Yes, he did.
I feel like
So
it's, I mean,
you know what I'm saying,
And he's
brother?
left Islam.
In
He left
antimatter, yeah?
Islam.
Electrons
He
are
did
positive and the
So
nucleus
wait,
is
one
negative.
second.
And they annihilate each other, they hate each other.
in antimatter.
Antimatter, you heard of antimatter?
Yeah, photons are positive.
Yeah.
And the nucleus is
Negative. If they
neutral.
Yeah, neutrons are positive, negative.
No.
So if they
An atom is made of protons and neutrons.
exactly, yeah.
So one is positive, one is neutral.
Yeah.
Where you connect
The
The
electrons,
nucleus of atoms are made up of that. The
They're
electron
positive.
is outside.
the electrons are negative, yeah?
Yeah, that's
But
right.
antimatter is reverse of that.
Yeah, but either way, look,
If the world, when the Big Bang happened, most of the antimatter was annihilated. All of it was annihilated. All
No,
left
you're
is
making
the
that claim.
matter.
You know you're not
These are the part of the theory.
that's the current
Things
understanding.
like dark matter and stuff like that, you know? So we keep our options open. There may be matter with electrons which are positive. You know, we don't say, oh, you're going to be silly if you think this. This is a part of the mathematical concept of theory.
So you would take me seriously as a scientist if I say electrons are positive.
That's an antimatter theory. That's an antimatter theory, you know? These are part of mathematical models that explain our
It
existence.
sounds like magic to me.
No, the thing is, we're all trying to find truth here, yeah? And all we can do is look at the evidence, what we find, and come up with mathematical models and stuff like that.
No, but we all have a bias.
Now,
This is the reason why science works, because it's
I keep my
specifically
bias
is self-correcting, and it forces you to eliminate your biases, because the minute you present a scientific theory to the rest of the world, they're going to make you look stupid, because other scientists don't want you to be right. They're going to test your shit
of course,
and make sure they find out if it's wrong.
No, I'm saying
Yeah?
science does not lead to truth.
So what does
That's
it lead
what I'm
to?
saying. Okay? Science only leads to working models. That's
Okay,
it.
and so what's the
Working
difference between
models.
that and truth?
Okay, working models doesn't mean it's true.
What you mean, ultimately true?
Yes, or they don't mean ultimately
So
true.
what can give you ultimate truth?
Okay, you need something outside of science Wait, hold on. Why are you laughing? You a second ago you were just backing me that an electron could be positive.
I never said that.
Yeah, go on, you need something else.
You said you read 100 books.
Okay, yeah.
So you can.
What I was saying is I haven't got the right to tell you what you have or haven't read. That's what I was saying. I'm right about that, but you're wrong for telling me that I was never a Muslim or I never.
No, you shouldn't say that. He wasn't.
Well, you can't tell me that.
Well, to
you
be
didn't
honest,
live my life.
no, to be honest,
No, but the thing is, like, this is one thing as a Muslim I don't like. If someone leaves Islam, he wasn't a Muslim in the first place. We have to get out of this mentality because you can't question. Maybe he wasn't a good Muslim, maybe he was a good Muslim. I don't know.
Maybe you're not a good Muslim.
Maybe I'm not a good Muslim.
So,
Exactly. But this is a very weak thing that we do as Muslims.
Have you heard of the Council of Ex-Muslims? Have you heard of the Council of Ex-Muslims?
I've seen a
They
few
were all
of them.
non-Muslims.
Yeah, they're all on Muslims. They're people who used to be
No, the
Muslims.
thing is, I've heard all the arguments. None of them are rational.
Alright, but look, the main thing is this, yeah, look, what we need to bring it down to is the fact of the matter is, we don't make claims about magical stuff, yeah? No, we don't.
You believe the universe exists, always existed?
No,
contrary to
bro,
that
how
belief.
many times do you want me to clarify this?
No,
I've said it
I
at
know
least 3 times.
No, you've said it, but it goes against the evidence of the universe.
You just said you believe that the universe has existed forever. So I'm going to clarify for you again what I say, what Stephen Hawking says, and what all the amazing famous cosmologists say. We do not say that the universe definitely existed forever. What we say and what they say, and based on the evidence, is that it looks like the universe had a beginning because of the expansion of the galaxies, but that is based on an inference of the data we have, which is limited. So it looks like the universe had a beginning, but
All data is limited. All data is
so that's why they don't say it's absolutely true. So when you say and try to tell me that I believe the universe existed forever, I don't say that.
so
And
it's
no,
saying
There are some scientists that do believe.
but Stephen Hawking doesn't say that. Sean Carroll doesn't say
Then you're
that.
cherry picking which ones you're choosing.
Right. So what's the general view, consensus?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, there's some people that say it's existed forever. There's some people that say that it never existed forever.
No,
so where do you go?
No.
Right?
Do the scientists say that they're sure and they can prove it?
No, I'm asking.
Right.
you.
So what they say is, some scientists say, I think it existed forever. Other scientists say, I think it had a beginning. Right? Both of them agree with what I say is that we don't know yet. Neither models are
theories,
conclusive.
right. There's loads of
So what he's trying to say to me is, you believe that the universe had a beginning. I don't believe that, and they don't believe that.
No, I accept what you're saying there, but what I'm saying is you don't believe it, but there's other people that do believe it.
No. This is what I'm saying to you. Find me one person who says that they know or believe and can show and demonstrate with evidence that the universe had a beginning.
No, I agree.
Yeah?
No.
So they're saying what I say, isn't it?
I
That it's a
believe
tentative model
I agree,
and it
I agree,
can be
I agree.
updated.
Yeah, of course.
So you shouldn't say to me, you believe the universe had a beginning.
Because you're making like negative affirmations of
No,
when
you are
when
jumping
I'm
to
inclined-
absolutism mentality because that's something you can't shake
No,
off.
I'm
We
not-
have a tentative way of looking at things.
Because the thing is like you believe that science is absolute in any sort of way, so it can't lead to truth.
You said that. But you said that.
Because nothing is absolute. Nothing is absolute. It always changes.
But do you
right?
think that the Quran is absolutely true?
Yes.
You said you was at 90%
I thought
sure.
you said 90%.
No. The
Make
thing
up
is
your
right.
mind.
The thing is right. You guys work on probability, right?
No.
If something is if to you guys, if something is 90%, then it's true for you. Then it's certain for you. I was working on your
all the stories in the Quran are true.
It's not true. It's
Okay.
likely.
Okay, it's like
Do you believe that Muhammad flew to heaven on a winged horse?
Wasn't a winged horse.
A Burak.
Burak.
What is it? What is it?
We don't
You can go on my channel and check it.
What is a
I'm
Burak
actually, there's an explanation of it.
Well, explain to me what a Burak is and how Muhammad flew.
It's a made up thing.
No. The thing is, right, there's no point of explaining to you what Burak is if you don't believe in God at first.
But why? I want to be convinced. I'm open-minded. I want you to convince me that this actually happened.
There's no point of going inside the book when you don't believe in the beginning.
Should we start from the beginning?
A cop-out though, isn't it?
Look, we guys live in a natural physical world,
So
and
do
as
we.
far as we're concerned, we don't know if there's anything outside of that. Even if there is, we can't see a way of knowing whether there is or not. So it's not really relevant to us to be arguing about it or debating about it, because so far there's no necessity to understand whether there is or isn't.
Okay.
So what I want to say to you is, that's how we look at the world, yeah? Because that's just common sense. Making up magical dimensions doesn't help in any way, shape or form.
But
Now,
in maths,
you are
you
the
do.
one that does have this sure belief that there is something else out there. We want to know why. And if you can present to us a good reason for why, we will join you.
Okay, so because you guys have been here probably a lot longer than I have. Has none of the arguments you've heard convinced you?
No.
Okay. You've heard of the Kalam argument.
Terrible argument.
Okay.
That's like William Craig, isn't it?
It came from the Muslims actually.
Yeah,
It came from the Muslims originally. William Craig.
Everything came from Muslims.
But his version is...
No, that one did. There's a lot that hasn't, but that one did.
What do you mean it's terrible? So what don't you agree with it? Like I just want to understand.
Bro, there's so many different things.
That's a very long discussion.
There's so many different things.
Give me one, because I want to know how your brain
Which one are you talking about? There's different ones of it.
Okay.
Everything at the beginning had a cause.
No, that's right. You want the cosmological way, yeah? Everything that had a beginning had a cause. Tell me something that had a beginning.
Space, isn't it?
What do you mean something at the beginning?
Tell me anything that had a beginning.
So cause and effect. Even has a cause has an effect, not beginning. Cause or effect.
Right. So what are you saying? What is your...
So for example, if my phone dropped, that's an effect, right? What was the cause? The fact I left my hand, or I did intentionally. It didn't randomly jump out of my pocket. Do you see what I mean?
I don't agree with that, but okay. David Hume would disagree with that.
Anyway, so had a cause, right? Anything that has an effect has a cause.
Have you heard of a process that's infinite, an infinite process?
Give me an example.
Like say for instance, my process, I'm going to walk half the distance between me and you,
Yeah.
then half the distance between that and that, and half the distance between that and that. If I keep going half the
In
distance
maths
all the
only,
time,
it doesn't work in real life.
I'm not going to get to you.
It doesn't work in real life.
Why not?
Because I can do that and I'll get to him.
No, it's an infinite going half and half and half.
We can actually test this.
It's an infinite process.
Don't go. In maths it works.
It's like-
in the real life it doesn't.
It's like a sphere, a circle, yeah? The number, the pi, 3.14, infinite amount of numbers goes on.
In maths, infinities exist.
Yeah.
But pi
If you try and accelerate a proton in a particle accelerator, it goes to 99.99999% of the speed of light. It never actually reaches there. It's an infinite process. You know what I mean?
in maths,
Yeah, it's an infinite
If
process.
you went in that direction, how far could you keep going for?
as far as the observable universe, or the extent.
Are you sure about that?
Well, to be
We would say as far as Allah lets us.
yes, I understand, but they have
What about when you pass a line, then what?
Here's the limit on it. If I took this phone, yeah, you said if you look, if I threw it up, yeah, they think what goes up comes down. If I threw it up past the escape velocity of this planet, it's not going to come back down.
Yeah, but what was the cause? The fact that you actually had enough force to make it leave the gravity of Earth.
Yeah.
Everything has a cause, has an effect.
As an effect, yeah. But people used to think,
Okay.
it's absolute
That's not
certainty
what you're
that
trying
it's
to say.
definitely going to come back down.
Everything that has an effect has a cause.
Yeah, everything that has an effect has a cause.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That cannot be broken down in any way, shape or form. Because everything that we see in terms of science, every effect has a cause.
You have infinite processes though.
So do you believe in the Big Bang, yeah? That the universe was created at the Big Bang?
From the model that we have now, yes.
So you believe the Big Bang is true and the universe was created at that time? Yeah?
So time is, I don't know anything about time. Time is very relative. So time equals t equals 0.
Okay.
We don't even know what that
Well,
means.
according to them, time and space were both came into existence at that point.
Yeah.
So what happened before then?
Okay. The answer I give you, right? So you're expecting me to say that God did it. That's what
Obviously,
expecting me
you're the
to
one that's saying that everything had a cause.
So your question is already loaded.
No, it's because you've already told me what you think.
No.
So I already know what the answer's going to be.
So
for you to change it now would be dishonest.
Okay, no, I'm not changing it.
So just say God did it.
Okay, no. I will say a deity or external force outside.
Wait a minute, bro. A minute ago you were saying that you're 100% sure Allah exists, 100% the Quran is true.
Yeah.
So why are you talking about a deity now?
No,
why don't you just say Allah?
Because you guys have a problem with this terminology.
No, I don't.
I'm trying to.
Bro, just say it.
No.
Just say
That's what we believe.
No, that's what we believe.
Why are you tapping
No.
We're all searching for truth here, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
I know, man.
But the thing is,
flustered or anything like that.
if I use some words that have a lot of baggage, automatically your mind shuts down.
Use deity if you want.
He won't care. He won't care. I debated with him. He don't care, bro. He knows how it is.
Okay, I would say that Allah created it and He exists forever. That created the universe. That seems more logical than the universe.
How can you agree with me a minute ago when we said that time and space both came into being, and now you're talking about before that time? How can you have? How can you use temporal framework and words when you're talking about a time before time existed?
No, you're talking about something metaphysical.
For example,
That's not within the realms of time and space.
You can
Time
say
is in this
anything
universe.
and then use magic as a way of
but it's
getting
not
out
magic.
of
It's
it. But this is true.
metaphysics
But
is a
magic
branch of
means that
knowledge.
we can still do this.
No, but that's not metaphysics.
Yeah, man.
They're not synonyms.
So if God caused the
Alright,
universe
so
to come into
metaphysics
existence,
means that it doesn't obey the
if
physical
God
laws.
caused the
Right?
universe
So it's
to come
magic,
into
isn't it?
existence.
No, it's
Yes,
not
so
magic.
God did,
That's
yeah?
your
So if you
definition.
look at cause and effect,
Metaphysics is a big
who caused
discussion.
God then?
You know, you've done
By the way, the best explanation does not need an explanation.
So God is infinite.
How do you mean infinite?
You just said there's nothing could be infinite. At the start.
Inside this observable universe, this reality that we live in, there's no outside the reality. That's not my place to say.
So you kind of like believing in the multiverse theory. God could be in another universe and create this universe.
Not another universe, because you have an idea of a universe having galaxies and stars. You've never seen outside this universe, right? Because
so outside the universe, it's outside of space and time.
yes, the way we know it.
So there's no thing in this outside the universe. So basically,
No. There's nothing that you can possibly conceptualize right now.
But you are. You're talking about God.
I'm not.
But you're trying to
I'm not
conceptualize it. You're convincing me.
I do not know how he looks like. The only thing I know.
Stop it.
you don't know what he looks like. You don't know where he is. You don't know what time he's in. You don't know if he exists, brother.
No. I don't need to know that.
Exists.
Okay, I don't need to know that to know that he exists.
Yeah.
So you don't know anything about
So
it?
you don't know what
How do
exists.
you know he exists?
No, we know certain things about him.
What do you know
So,
about
for
him?
example, okay, tell me where my logic breaks down.
I
Okay?
just asked you a question.
No, because we
do
have
you know about him?
no, because that's completely irrelevant.
So you're going to avoid the question?
It's irrelevant. That's
You're
why.
going to avoid that
It's
question?
relevant. Okay, just
Millions of
break
neurons in
down.
your brain, breaking it down, information. and
Break
stuff
down
like
my premise. That's what you have to do. Don't go to premise. Okay, my premise is that the universe had a beginning. Okay.
I disagree.
Okay.
No one says that.
Okay.
You're
By-
the only person,
okay.
and religious people are the only people that say that.
Okay, by the current model we have, it looks like the universe had a beginning.
Yeah, and when that changes, what are you guys going to do then?
when
You're going to
it
say,
changes,
oh, well, we always knew the universe existed forever. We
By the
always
way-
knew that.
by the
Guys,
way,
it's pathetic.
I don't believe that will change. I don't
Don't believe it will change.
I don't believe that will change.
How
Personally, I
how
don't
dare
believe
you
that will
What's the
change.
point in doing
how
science
dare
if you
you
don't think
think
you can
know
actually learn
better
anything new?
than all the experts in the world?
I know that.
Who do you think you
I
are?
know that if I drop my phone anytime, it will
We're not
always
talking
go
about
down.
dropping your phone.
No,
We're
no, no,
talking
no.
about the universe.
It's
Yes?
universe.
And you are claiming to know things about it that the greatest experts do not claim to know.
No. I'm not saying I know more than them.
Yes, you do,
No,
because
no,
you
no,
said that that won't change, and they all say that we are open to we are open for modification.
By the way, you hold scientists too high of
Me,
of a
he's the
ladder.
one that said
Way
the Big
too high
Bang.
of a
He's the
ladder.
one that said the Big Bang will never change. That model will never change.
you put
And
the-
I hold scientists too high.
You think there's some sort of deity that you look at. Whatever the scientists say, I will go with it. No, you see what I mean? And then there's something
It looks
scientists
like
know.
projection, bro. This is you. You describe it yourself.
It looks like scientists might know something that I might not know, and I might know something that scientists might not know. Okay.
Demonstrate it, innit? Play by the rules. Demonstrate it.
Hold on.
Maybe you're holding the Quran for too high.
My
We
premise.
evolve our knowledge. We learn more and more.
So you're getting this.
Stay open to like
You see
being
your-
wrong about stuff. You
No,
know,
no.
stay open to learning new stuff.
You use your brain and science. You hold too much of a high platter, but you can't prove the assumptions of science to begin with. Okay.
What are you going to use then? Supernatural
No.
stuff and
Okay.
a man walking into a cave and speaking to a ghost.
That's more reliable, yeah?
And writing a book.
Rationality.
Is that more reliable to you?
Common sense.
First of all, we're not going there. Let's just finish because we're going to go into so many tangents.
Bro, just keep it simple.
Yeah,
yeah?
keep it- so-
what is it that you're so sure is
Okay,
true?
right now we think that, so it looks like the universe had a beginning, it looks like it, right? Yeah. So it looks like that the universe wasn't always here, it looks like, right?
For the time being.
Well, wait, no, so...
No, not
what do you mean? So
necessarily.
you're,
Not necessarily.
You're claiming science at the gaps
Bro,
now.
what if I keep telling you? Stop being so absolutist.
No, I'm not, it's not absolute.
Well,
I
I'm
said
going
it
to
looks
explain
like,
this to
it
you
looks like.
again. This is the 5th time I've done it very thoroughly. These guys are going to think I'm one of the Dawa lot, repeating my same stuff again and again. I'm only doing it because you're genuinely not understanding.
I understand what
you're
saying.
not understanding.
Let me explain.
Bro, stop telling me I definitely think this.
I never
and
said definitely. I never said
that.
definitely.
Yes, you
I
are.
said it looks like.
It looks like the universe had a beginning.
So my logic doesn't break down at any
Yes,
point
it
right
does.
now. Where does it break?
Yes, it does, because that's not an absolute fact. Even the scientists who promote that theory say that it is still open to be changed.
But has it been changed right now?
No, not
So
today.
my logic right
No, but
now
it's not-
doesn't stand.
it's
Right
not
now.
the-
My logic
No,
right
it
now
doesn't stand, because that's not even the most convincing story. That's not even the most universally accepted theory. That's not even the most consensual theory. There are other theories out there, like
Add
the
more to
universe
the
exists
equation all the
forever.
time.
Okay, by the way, this was in the 1970s. This was
Yeah, and a lot has happened since then.
Yeah.
So a lot of scientists
Yeah.
nowadays say the universe probably exists forever.
2017.
No. Back then they used to say the universe.
Why are you
forever.
holding on to 30-year-old science and claiming it to be absolute when it's already been superseded?
I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. 30 years ago, okay, maybe 40 years ago now, scientists who said that the universe was always there. It's a brute fact. the universe was always there. Right? This was the
Right
science.
now, they have
A minute ago you were
mathematical
saying that
models.
it had a beginning.
No,
different to that.
I'm saying this is what scientists have said 40 years ago, that the universe was always there.
No, listen,
It
my friend.
changed.
You hear one thing from one scientist, and then suddenly you think that represents the whole of science. Therefore, you can use that and claim, put that, inject that into your thinking.
Okay, so if Stephen
not how it
Hawking,
works.
if Stephen Hawking says something right now, you would take it as...
No, I wouldn't.
So you would need to see like 100 scientists before you...
It gets peer reviewed. It gets peer reviewed by other scientists, and they find flaws in it.
And
They try
even
to
then, I'll
find
say
faults
that
by it.
that's what everybody thinks. It might be true, but I'm still not 100% sure.
So you're not sure about anything?
Did you know, yeah?
be so
The universe,
You're just confused.
90% of the universe is dark,
looks like-
dark
I'm
matter,
honest.
dark energy.
Because I'm honest about the things I think I don't know. That makes me confused.
No,
Whereas you make magical claims
not magic.
about
By the-
dimensions. Wait a minute, you
when
make
you say
magical
magic-
claims about dimensions that you have not demonstrated to exist, and you're looking at me as if I'm being silly.
Bro, when I say I haven't proved to exist, I can prove it logically, not scientifically.
Prove it logically.
Okay? Now you tell me where my logic breaks down, and then I'll supersede.
Go on then.
Okay?
Go on then. Tell me your logic.
Okay. No, because you're making negative affirmations to something that you don't know, which means you have to know it.
I want to hear
to
your
make
logic.
affirmations for you
Tell
to
me
not
your
know.
logic first, and I'll tell you where it breaks down.
Okay. So it looks like the universe had a beginning. Does not look like that?
To some people, yeah.
Some people.
Here's the inventor of inflation model. Read the paragraph where my index finger is. Can you read that paragraph at the bottom?
Yeah, Alan Guth, I don't know if the universe had a beginning. I suspect the universe didn't have a beginning. It's very likely eternal, but nobody knows.
Value, that's an inflation model, that's scientists that backs up, that's not a consensus, that's a very fringe minority. So I don't think
This is the best model we have.
that's the best model we have.
And you call that fringe minority? Fringe minority.
I know
I don't know.
you kept yourself out.
I've heard of that.
Just stay open to new knowledge, yeah?
No, of course I'm open to new knowledge.
People are doing a lot of research in this, spending a lot of time, spending their whole life
So-
studying this stuff, you know?
Hold on, so we
don't know we haven't got the full conclusive.
thing is, yeah,
we never
answer
reach
yet,
conclusions, so we never reach
So
conclusions. Is that what
basically,
you're trying to say?
I'm saying, you stay open to new information.
Okay.
And the best way to stay open is to realise that you can falsify what you already know, and you
I
can be
agree,
wrong.
I agree. As a
And that's what,
Muslim- as a
yeah.
Muslim,
So you
I
can
agree.
learn and learn more. We can learn more about this world we're living in.
So what's the point of doing all these scientific researches? What's the point? If
Find out
it will
more.
always change.
I mean, if you're
It will always
Muslim,
change.
you're going to find out more about God's wonderful creation. Yeah.
If we didn't do
I'm not
it,
a
it
Muslim.
wouldn't change.
I could be a Christian. I could be a Hindu, or Buddhist, or whatever. I still want to find out more about this wonderful creation that I'm living on.
Yeah, of course.
You know, that's the truthful way of doing things. You know, it's not about me trying to ridicule you or you trying to ridicule me.
And
no,
traditionally, Muslims have always been open to science. In the last maybe 200 years, where we've got this hardline attitude that science
say
is against.
always, but
Well, yeah,
they have been.
They have been. But
Have you
there's
two,
people-
you two always been Muslims?
I've always been Muslim.
You always been a Muslim?
But I don't think science, Muslim Islam is against science.
Yeah, but the thing is, how lucky are you, yeah, to be born into a religion which has the ultimate truth? All the Christians, all the Buddhists, all the Hindus and Jews are unlucky and born into a falsehood. You know, so as you look around the world, you think to yourself, why would God do that? Why would He make people like you, yeah, be born into the right religion and the right truth?
You can't ask that question if you don't believe He exists.
Yeah,
you can't ask that question.
I used to be a
It's legitimate
Catholic.
question.
I used to be a Catholic, so I used to believe He exists, but the Catholics thought that all Muslims are going to burn in hell. And Muslims think that all non-believers are worse than cattle, they're going to burn in hell.
We don't say anything about non-believers.
But
We say Allah,
the,
no,
the,
side.
the Quran is obsessed with non-believers.
Yeah, but there's a
obsessed with that, what
There's a
punishment they're
problem
gonna
when people talk about non-believers. Tommy Robinson does this as well. When it says Tommy Robinson in his new Quran, I've got it. I'm doing a reputation of that. So I've got it, my pal. I'll tell you.
Oh, the Amazon bestseller.
Yeah, Amazon bestseller.
Yeah, I heard that.
They do. This is what a lot of Islamophobes do. I'm not saying you guys are Islamophobes, but there are a lot of Islamophobes out there. Say, oh look, it says there about non-believers. They're all going hell. Look how it says Muslims kill the non-Muslims. When the Quran, this is the problem with not knowing Arabic, and I know this is a common thing that Muslims say, oh, you don't know Arabic. But the pre-Islamic Arabic, when they were talking that there was this thing within their Arabic that it wasn't talking about general. It was talking about specific people. So, for example, when it says kill the non-believers, it was talking about exactly those people.
Why would a book for all time and all humanity talk about the local political squabbles?
But this is what me and you always discuss. My position is always that traditionally the book wasn't for lay people. It was there.
No, what's so important for the rest of us now
So listen,
to be learning about the
listen to
political
what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying.
squabbles of little
Traditionally, early Muslims, it was the scholars who had studied the Arabic language for 10, 15 years. Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, for example, 15 years is important because a word, if it's misinterpreted, and there was lots of sex within Islam misinterpreted, they use it,
But
scripture.
don't you think that an intelligent person, because someone write a book saying, kill the non-believers?
Yeah.
Don't you think that could be misinterpreted
Yeah,
to mean
of course,
kill people who don't
but
believe in your
the Sunni
religion?
normative position has never been open like anyone can interpret the Quran. That's what we say people deviants do.
The thing is,
that right?
So you can't interpret it.
No, lay people can't interpret.
What's
That's
the
a
point?
very
What's the point?
Okay,
So write a book that lay
because
people can't
it tells you to go to people. The Quran says, if you don't know, ask those who know. That's what.
how do you know who knows?
People, then it's up to you. So we have the 4 schools of Madhab here. We have the Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki.
Why should anyone take any of them seriously?
Because there's people who have studied within that.
So what?
And
They could just be brainwashed.
They could be. So let's just say, for example, let's say I picked up a medical book right now. I read a few pages and I wanted to be a surgeon.
But you can refer to the science to validate everything that's said.
Am I allowed to operate? Am I allowed to operate?
Bro, the thing is, your analogy is silly because you can't do that with the Quran. There's no physical scientific test available to validate it. With your medical textbook, you can check everything and go to a bloody hospital and make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be. But with the Quran, all you have is hundreds of bloody scholars for dollars making money off idiots telling them this is the way to read it.
Some people have been scholars for dollars, but traditionally,
all of them.
No, they haven't been all of them.
What is the one unique interpretation? What is the true interpretation of Islam?
This is the beauty of the Arabic language. This is the thing.
It's not a beauty.
I think
that is not a feature. That's
one word. No. This is and we discussed this with Gin and Tonic. Well, I wasn't on the show, but you asked the question why Arabic when it can mean so many different things. I believe that's a mercy from Allah because it's for every time and place.
People kill each other over what he wrote.
Listen,
that people kill each other. Bro, it's just silly. You're telling me that an all-knowing being wrote a silly book in a silly language that can be interpreted thousands of different ways.
How does that make sense?
This is the thing.
You had a really eloquent speaker in London, a few years ago, and he's in prison now, But he influenced a lot of people, youngsters in London and around the world in Europe. His name is Anser Chowdhury.
I used to hang around with him.
What did you think of him when you hung around
That's what I'm saying.
Did you think he was a good Muslim?
I think at the time I didn't know any better. And this is why, exactly. Listen, this proves my point. I didn't know about Anser Chowdhury. He was elegant. He had a big beard. He was wear top.
How do you know your interpretation is better than his?
So what I'm saying is,
how do you know your interpretation
he nearly led me down that wrong road.
Yeah, exactly. That's the danger.
He nearly led me.
You could have been in ISIS now.
Absolutely. So that's why it has to be qualified scholarship. That's why we need to go back to that.
Do you think he's still a good Muslim?
No.
So you wouldn't sanction him and recommend him listen to what he's saying,
I know.
But right now he's in Belmarsh prison or whatever, converting hundreds, probably thousands of young people.
And that's a big problem that we have.
Now this is the book that he's using, the same Quran, which was written in a kind of language which you say is difficult to interpret.
You've just proved my point that anyone who's with a big beard or anyone that picks up the Quran and starts interpreting or has a thing and says, I can read Arabic, that's all the prerequisite, that's going to lead people to that thing. And the Quran has got those verses. Let's be absolutely. But that's why it's.
So why shouldn't someone interpret it like that?
Because we as Muslims, there's always been a normative version of Islam. And the normative version of Islam says.
What do you mean a peaceful mistranslation or misinterpretation?
No, listen. Islam there's a normative version that says you do not kill innocents, you do not.
Except sometimes you do.
No. Innocence. Okay. So you made a claim.
The way I see it,
Never.
The way I see it, I see you, all brothers, we're all equal.
Yeah, of course.
Now the Quran says that non-believers are like cattle.
Okay.
Or even worse than cattle.
I just explained that to you. So it's not about generally.
Can you see how that's?
It says kill the Jews.
It doesn't specify that. You have to add that interpretation. Does it specify that we're talking about him and nobody else?
This is exactly
no, it doesn't. So we have every right to interpret it talking about all of them.
And that's the arrogant approach.
If Allah's got a problem, why didn't he just be more clear? If Allah's got a problem, why didn't he be more clear?
You need to. So the Quran, you actually need to do some hermeneutics with it, and you
only have to do that is because it's so stupid.
Okay.
Do you think I'm Western cattle?
So if your God is all powerful, he could have wrote something.
If you don't think that, then you're going against what your Quran says.
If you take a verse and you read it exactly how it is, then that means anyone can read the Quran.
It's just made up.
So do you think I'm Western cattle?
Okay. The thing is, right?
No, you have to ignore that stuff.
No, you can't.
To get by in this game.
Just tell him no.
Just say no.
I don't know about the tafsir because I have to refer back. So I don't know.
Just say no. I'm a human being. I'm standing in front of you now. Don't worry about what the takfir says. As a human being, do you think that I'm Western cattle?
As a human being, no.
No, good. That's all I want to hear.
As a human being, no.
That's all I want to hear. So whether your book says I am, that as a human being with a humanitarian spirit and everything, like me and you are humans, you cannot tell me that I'm worse than cattle because you know it's offensive to me. Like if I say to you,
and you should be offended.
you're worse than cattle.
And there's people that will tell you that is an interpretation, but we say that's a deviant interpretation, and that's always been a fringe.
So there's a possibility that the book is wrong. There's some
it's not cherry picking because we have a normative. This is the thing. People say, "Oh, Islam doesn't have a pope." You know, your interpretation is just. That's a very postmodern thing. We've always had a normative interpretation.
The thing is, you need to argue with the other Muslims.
I do, and
I don't really care what your particular version of it is. As far as I'm concerned, it's just as rubbish as their one. You're the one that has the issue amongst yourselves.
This is the thing. If you come with that arrogant approach, then we have.
Bro, it's just made up. Give me a reason why I should believe that any magical dimension or any magical being or anything outside of the universe exists. Let's start there. Why should anyone think any of that stuff exists? Why?
Forget talk about like interdialogue.
I don't care what's written in the Quran. It's just nonsense. Rubbish.
That's a claim.
It's just silly rubbish. Why don't we talk about why anyone should believe that any of that stuff exists in the first place? Because there's no point talking about the Quran unless we establish.
No, we have to establish that that someone.
Is there any good reason to believe that there is another dimension outside of the physical reality?
Yes.
What is that reason?
And I keep alluding to this point, but you keep saying no, science will change. That's not 100% fact. Then why are we doing science?
Science does change. That's the whole beauty of science. It learns more, you update more, you stand on the shoulders of giants, and the more you learn, the more you come towards the truth.
By the way, when you say standing on the shoulders of giants, it sounds like these shoulders change all the time.
Yeah, they do.
Shoulders break down.
From Galileo, from Pluto, Galileo, from Newton, Einstein, Stephen Hawking.
No.
They're learning from
Can I say one thing because I'm going to go up to this here. So I was telling you about the rhetorical device, and this is why Muslims used to study logic, rhetoric. They used to study the Arabic pre-Islamic poetry. When you generalize, but you're talking about specific groups. So numerous verses are in Baqarah and the Jews will not be pleased with thee, the Christians will not be. This is what I'm saying.
Does the Quran ever say anything?
It says kill the Jews. It says I'm not paraphrasing here, but you know it talks about cattle and stuff. This is the problem when labels people like me and you, we just pick up the Quran and we look at it. Of course you're going to be shocked. It's, you know.
Wouldn't it be better if it didn't say kill the Jews? Or if it didn't say
we've been intellectually honest, and it said that, but my point is
his point was that to understand the Quran, you have to understand that when it talks about a general group, it's actually talking about a specific group.
And that's why you know. No, it's not.
I've got to learn Arabic.
Why couldn't it have just said what it means, or why couldn't it have said that in the Quran as well?
Because the Quran is for
Did it say that in the Quran?
This is what I'm saying. Arrogant people just.
Did it say that in the Quran? That you have to, when we say generalize, you have to talk. We're talking about.
So in the Quran it says if you don't know, ask the people who know.
No.
So that is, we refer to qualified scholarship. Now listen, it's like you never really answered this question that I asked you before, yeah? Allow me to finish my point. So you can't practice law, or you can't practice medicine until you study 5, 6, 7, 8 years. We're dealing with a book that's in your next life. I know you don't believe that can affect your eternity.
But you said it yourself. That scholar you used to follow, a qualified scholar, a lawyer as well, Amjad Chowdhury.
No, he wasn't a qualified scholar.
He wasn't a scholar.
Alright, then look at that guy who, what's his name, al-Baghdadi. The guy, the leader of ISIS, he's got a PhD in Islamic studies.
I'm telling you, I spent a number of years with them. They were clowns. I'll say it to them.
There's a lot of people, who are Muslims. Like, for instance, you've got some really good. My neighbours are Muslims. They're Ahmadiyya Muslims.
Okay. We don't consider them Muslims. We don't consider them Muslims.
And you don't consider them Muslims.
They don't consider you as Muslim.
I know. So how did I see that?
Why should we take any of this seriously?
You don't have to take it seriously. You don't. This is the
They go to a mosque and start peace and love outside of it.
You don't.
And you don't even consider them Muslims.
That's why I don't take it seriously.
But atheists seem to be obsessed with Islam for some reason. Because we're the only ones that stick to our deen.
This is some tribal politics.
Not tribal politics.
The whole point is
This is
that
what I'm
we're supposed to have
saying.
this one Muslim ummah, there are 1.7 billion Muslims around the world. If you break it down to only
Half of them are not Muslims. Yeah, most of them say that they're not Muslims.
Not real Muslims. Shias are not Muslims. Ahmadiyya are not real Muslims.
Traditionally,
How many real Muslims are there? The real Muslims, please stand up. We're the real Muslims.
No. Ahmadiyya, or what we call Qadianis, we don't consider the Muslims. Sunnis and Shias, both of us, we don't
So
consider
what's that?
But they are brothers and sisters.
Sunnis don't call each other Muslims.
No. Some do. Hanafis, we consider Shias Muslims.
Bro, the point is, that it's obviously not perfect, is it? It's so open to misinterpretation.
Yeah, and you consider non-believers to be
let's get
worse
back to
than
science.
cattle.
So just like in science, where you've got different theories, you've got different things, and you discuss those ideas, and it forces you to think. Similarly with Islam, you've got different interpretations. Of course it forces you to. What does that ayah mean? What does this ayah mean? And the scholars debate it, and that's what
Yeah, but it expects you to accept it without evidence.
What's that?
It expects you to accept it without evidence.
No, it doesn't. No,
Where's the evidence?
First of all, if you submit to Allah, if you submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,